Alright guys, welcome back to another video, and today we're going to do another video on the new headset that we've been talking about on this channel. This is the Play for Dream headset, the 8K resolution that they have on this headset with OLED panels and all that stuff. I did a full review and impressions on the channel. And today we're here to talk about virtual desktop and PCVR. That's the strongest point that this headset has right now, is being able to do wireless PCVR in the highest resolution that you could possibly get and the best settings that you can get on virtual desktop that no other headset right now in the market can actually do. So I've been putting it through its paces over the last week since I've been receiving it, trying to dial in the best settings and all of that stuff. And with the router that I had before and in the position that I had the router before, I couldn't get it to work in the best settings possible. I got it to work really well, which I talked about in my impressions, but I couldn't get it to the best that you can get out of this headset because of latency, because of the resolution and stuff. My router and the way it was positioned just wouldn't keep up. So what did I do this weekend? Well, you can kind of see it behind me, the alien mothership that kind of landed behind me. This is the ASUS router that we're going to be talking about here in this video that basically supports Wi-Fi 7. And that basically makes Wi-Fi 6 gigahertz, you know, the spectrum that you connect to on your wireless when you have like wireless 2.4 and 5.0 and stuff like that. Wireless 6 is another one that that has been around for a while, and that's what I had on my other router, my other ASUS router that I'm now selling. Supported Wi-Fi 6, but it didn't support Wi-Fi 7. And Wi-Fi 7 basically just expands the spectrum of Wi-Fi 6 so it can reach further distances and get even faster speeds than it could before. So I wanted to talk about in this video how much better this router has made my wireless coverage in the house, and also talk about how it's made my performance on the Play for Dream, and now the best settings that I recommend anybody who has a Wi-Fi 7 router, whether it's this one or another one, the best settings to put your Play for Dream on that I have been working with, and a lot of us agree on the Discord that these are the best settings that you guys should run, and show you a little bit of gameplay of PCVR running so you can see it for yourself. So let's go ahead and get into the video.
Gaming tech, eating brekkie is the gaming tech. Going for a recce is the gaming tech. Gaming techie is the gaming tech. Gaming techie.
All right, guys. So here is the ASUS ROG. This is the GT-BE98 Pro router, as you guys are looking at here. Now, this router has so many features that we're not going to be covering in this video because it will need a complete deep dive on this router. So if you guys want me to make a specific review on this router, let me know in the comments down below. This is more of an overview and how the experience has been in my wireless in my house, and you know, just PCVR in general wirelessly. But here's the router itself. Like I said, it looks like an alien. Look at all these you know, antennas that you have here. Love the customization of the RGB. I love my RGB that you have on here. And then obviously all the buttons here are showing your WAN connectivity, your LAN connectivity, the 5 gigahertz. So one of the things I love about this router that my other one didn't have is that it actually has two 6 gigahertz Wi-Fi connections. So you can see that right here there's one and there's two. You can see it right there. They're all differentiated. 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi is up, the 5 is up, the 6 gigahertz 1 is up, and the 6 gigahertz 2 is up. Now, what would be the purpose of that? Like, why would you want to do that? Well, let me show you right here really quickly on my phone. Basically, what that allows is I can, you know, obviously with interference and stuff like that, for a lot of people tell you, hey, only connect your, you know, Quest 3 or your Play for Dream headset on the 6 gigahertz Wi-Fi so you don't receive any other interference from anything in your house, which means that anything else that supports 6 gigahertz Wi-Fi, for example, my Samsung phone that I have here, the Galaxy Z Fold 7, I couldn't have connected to the 6 gigahertz Wi-Fi if I didn't want to, you know, have any VR performance issue with virtual desktop and I wanted to eliminate any interference. So with this one, basically what I did is that I still have my Smart House 6G Wi-Fi, like you guys can see here, and there's still the 5G one sitting there, but there is the Smart House 6G VR only. So basically I only connect my Quest 3 and my Play for Dream headset on here, which is part of the second network that I have set up for 6G. And that allows me to basically separate this. So now I can still connect my devices that support 6G and you know, connect it to this without worrying about interference, and then only connect my VR headsets to the other band that they have for 6G that separates it all out, which is really nice. And then I also have one for Smart House LOT, which basically lets me separate everything that's Internet of Things. So basically anything that's, you know, my smart house stuff or like my Google Home and all that stuff gets connected to that one there. And then you have the smart house 5G and the regular smart house 2.4. So that really makes it great for VR. The fact that you can separate it out and still be able to use a different band for 6 gigahertz is great. So you can still use your other devices. So I really like that. And I really like the look of this thing. First of all, look at that see-through there. I really like the way that that looks as well with the RGB lights and everything. It really looks like a freaking alien has landed on here. It's really super cool. As somebody who's a gamer and stuff, I think it fits the theme of this room really well. Obviously, it's not a router look for everyone, but I love the look of it. It definitely grabs attention as soon as you walk in, and I think it looks awesome. And more importantly, it performs really well. Is the router page that you have on here. I'm not going to go through every single setting because I don't want to show my whole entire network here for the world. But as I scroll down here, you can see there are the different bands that I was talking about for 2.4, 5, 6, 1, and 6, 2. You can see I have 63 clients online right now. You can see network traffic sitting right here, which is good. Network ping status, like all this stuff. It has all these gaming features. You can change the LED lights and everything, and all that stuff is all there. You have a bunch of different stuff. You can even set up meshes. I don't have any meshes because I don't need it, but you could if you wanted to, which is great if you wanted to do that. They have AI protection, like if you want to turn that on and stuff. You have game acceleration that prioritizes game devices and all that, which is all here. You can set up your open NAT, which is really important, and enable port forwarding really easily. See all the games radar stuff for different games that are on here. You can even set up a VPN if you want to set up a VPN so everything on your internet goes through traffic. And don't forget, wireless 7 actually works on all the different bands. So the Wi-Fi 7 that I was talking about before, that's going to give you better performance and better speeds, is because it works on all of them. Wi-Fi 6, Wi-Fi 5.0, and Wi-Fi 2.4. They'll all get better speeds and better Wi-Fi coverage because of Wi-Fi 7. The only thing with Wi-Fi 7 is it doesn't have the furthest reach. Which is why I put my router right in the same room as VR, just to eliminate all those issues. But you can see the Wi-Fi 7 symbol is on every single one that I have set up because that is the way that it works. It just helps everything work a lot better. The only one that's not connected with it is the Smart House LOT, because some of the internet devices that you have for your smart home may have issues connecting to Wi-Fi 7 with backwards compatibility, so these are separated out. There's even USB ports on the back of this thing, so you can set it up on a server if you want to. You have iCloud support, Alexa support, you can connect it to Google Home, firewall administration, system log, all the stuff that you would expect on here. Really easy to get to on your computer, and setting it up was a breeze. I have Optimum at home. I currently have a 1 gig line. I'm actually upgrading my internet to 2 gigs this Friday, so I'm excited for that. It shouldn't really make any huge benefits for the VR performance because I'm already maxing that throughput out. But regardless, for downloading Steam games and things like that, I upgraded my house with 2.5 gigahertz switches. I got this router here, which has LAN ports that support 2.5. My PC also has a 2.5 gig Ethernet port on the back, so the internet speeds are going to be crazy in this house, going from 1 gig to 2 gigs when downloading massive files and stuff, which is going to be great. But again, that's not really going to make a huge difference for VR. 1 gig is going to be plenty, and it's going to max out that throughput regardless, because we're going through wireless when it comes to these VR headsets like the Play for Dream. Alright guys, so let's move over to the Play for Dream here so I can show you some of the settings that you guys should definitely tweak. Now, I talked about some of this already in my overview when I did the impressions here, like the display, like adjusting some of the display settings and stuff like that, like adjusting the brightness and the contrast and saturation. So we're not going to go through that here today. The important thing that we need to talk about that's actually going to affect the performance is under advanced is this foveated rendering. So the 4K per eye, I leave it at 4K per eye. Some people like to switch it to 3K per eye because they don't notice the difference. I do, so I leave it at 4K without any issues. But the bottom here is where you're gonna be paying attention. So before I had it at full rendering, and that's gonna cause some severe performance latency, like 70 and up when you're running at all these settings and stuff. So you don't want to do that. What you want it to do is just sit there at the fixed foveated rendering, which is going to save some performance on the chipset of this headset, which is going to allow you to run at all this max bit rate that we're going to talk about here in virtual desktop here in a minute. So that is something that I recommend. If you do full rendering, then it's going to be running harder and you're going to get a lot higher latency with all the settings I'm going to show you here today. So leave it at fixed. You could even do eye tracked and even save more performance, but in my opinion, it's not worth the cost. I would leave it at fixed foveated, and that's a great middle ground, and all these settings are going to perform exactly like we're going to talk about here in the video. So that's what I would recommend, to make sure you change that in these settings, because it makes a big difference. All right, guys, so here we are on the headset. I just wanted to show you now the virtual desktop settings so you can see the best settings that you can get on virtual desktop. Let's look at the virtual desktop client here. So now with this new Wi-Fi 7, if you have a Wi-Fi 7 router, you can obviously push things a lot further than before. So on my previous video when I did my impressions, I was using the AV110-bit, but that is limited to only 200 megabits per second, which is going to be good for most people, especially if you don't have a Wi-Fi 7 router, because if you don't have a Wi-Fi 7 router and you're trying to use a headset like this or the Quest 3 wirelessly, for you to be able to get 600 megabits per second and push it and not lose any network latency and stuff is going to be really hard. That's why Wi-Fi 7 made a big deal, even for me with my old Wi-Fi 6 router, which is no slouch in a router. That router cost me $500, you know, a few years ago. It couldn't keep up at that speed, and now this one can. So basically, if you have a Wi-Fi 7 router like I do, you go ahead and set this to H.264+. If not, you can go ahead and keep it to AV110-bit Quest 3. If you're using just a Wi-Fi 6 router without Wi-Fi 7 wireless, this will go to 200 megabits per second, but will still give you fantastic performance. It just won't be as good looking as this one will be if it's fully maxed out. Now, you go on to enable 2-pass encoding. If you have the leg room to do that, definitely enable that. That's going to basically do a 2-pass and make it even better. You want this enabled. You want VDXR for the OpenXR runtime. You want all of this checked here. As you can see, nothing special there. Then you go to advanced, and this is important. Make sure the VDXR render resolution is 144%, so we're using the full resolution of the Play for Dream panel lenses. So you want to go ahead and make sure that that's set that way, and have this all set up like this. Now, once that is all done, this is all good. Then you're gonna go into virtual desktop here on the settings, and then you can see here, for settings here, I have the desktop resolution bitrate all the way up. That's no big deal. We're going to go ahead and switch this to 90 frames per second. You want the environment high, in my opinion. Use optimal resolution if you want to do that. Screen resolution at 100%. Leave that as is. And then, importantly, streaming. So Monster is the only, Play for Dream is the only one that has access to this Monster setting. So this is really pushing. It's recommended that you have a 5090, but people with a 4090 have done this as well. Monster is what you want if you want the best quality that you can possibly get. Again, 90 frames per second for the VR frame rate. Here is the bit rate. So I have this set to 600, the maximum. Of course, you can adjust this up and down if you want to, and we'll talk about more of this in a minute, but right now it is sitting at 600 megabits per second. Sharpening leave at 75. You don't need game super resolution because you're already super sampling with VDXR that you saw before. Leave this on automatic just in case. And that's it. That's pretty much all the best settings that you would want a virtual desktop to be in if you're on a Wi-Fi 7 and you want this to be set up correctly. And now we're going to go and switch over to some gameplay and show you guys a little bit about this VR bitrate and what you might want to tweak depending on what game you're actually playing.
All right, guys, so here we are showing off some gameplay here on some of the games that I wanted to show you guys. So you can see, hopefully you guys can see this. I don't know if you guys can even see the overlay, so I'll just read it off to you just in case. But you can see the frame rate is set to 90 frames per second like we talked about before. And you can see the latency in this game right now, 11 table tennis, is sitting around 36, so which is great. My max bit rate is 600 megabits per second. Like I said, we're running H.264 plus using the headset and running on Steam VR. You can see we're connected to the 6 gigahertz Wi-Fi, which is getting 5,187 megabits per second at max. The game encoding time latency is 3, encoding is 6, networking is like hovering between 5 and 6, and decoding is at 14, which is always going to be the highest. So that's where you get anywhere from 35 to 40 in this game, running at 600 megabits per second. You can see I want to do a single player. You need good latency to be able to play a game that's this fast and this, you know, reliant on it. And remember, I'm recording on the PC that is streaming this game into me, which is adding a little bit possibly of latency, even though my PC is pretty powerful with the 5090, so it shouldn't be too bad. But just keep that in mind while you're playing. But you can see we can play a game like this, even... Oh, nice shot by the PC. That was terrible. But you can play this game, and you wouldn't be able to play it if you didn't have good latency. I'm not doing a very good job of playing this while we're talking. Damn. Computer's shutting me out. That was bad. And I got rocked there. I am doing terrible, and I'm really good at this game too. I don't know what I'm doing right now. I'm going to blame it on the fact that I'm recording and also playing at the same time, which is usually the case. But my point is that you can see the latency is very good, and this guy's just making some really good shots right now for the level I'm playing at. Finally got one. I was about to get shut out here on stream. And I did get shut out. Man. All right, let's try to do a little bit better here in the second game. But yeah, like before on my previous router, I could never ever play this game wirelessly PCVR because it just wasn't. He's still got that. It just wasn't good enough. I said that in my preview video. He's getting all of these. I said that in my preview video that I wasn't able to play games like this because of the fast motion that you needed. It was great for playing single player games and stuff, but for games like this, it just wasn't good enough. And now that I can finally get my latency down to where it is right now, you know, hovering at around 35 to 40, this game is now definitely playable in wireless form. He's still going to hit that. Oh, I thought he was going to hit the table. At least we're playing a little bit better now. But you can see I can hit the ball and, you know, do things that I always did when playing, and I'm having no issues. Oh, he smacked that real hard. He took advantage of that. I don't know what I just did. Started off well. We're back to losing 3-10. Yep, lost. But my skills have nothing to do with it. You guys saw the latency is really good, but there is some other stuff we got to talk about here as well. Now, when you change the bitrate here and you go out of the Steam VR, first of all, we're back here in Steam Home VR. Now you can see I'm still getting 90 frames per second. Again, hovering between 35 to 40 to 45. That's usually the max I see. 35 to 45, running at 600 megabits per second. That's usually what the games hover around at this megabits per second for me. You know, on this headset, and you can see while scrolling around here in Steam VR, it just looks really good. It looks really, really close to what you would get at a native headset at this resolution. No pixelization that I can see. High details using these 4K panels, and you know, being in Steam VR right now, scrolling through, there's my recording. You know, it just looks really good. There's some pictures that I put on the wall and stuff, just for fun. But yeah, you can see I'm moving around with no lag or anything like that. Having a really good time being able to play something like this. However, I will say, we're not going to do it because I don't want to get copyright striked with Beat Saber right now. Some games, if you want to get even better response time, depending on what's actually going on, if you want the latency to definitely stay under 40, and you don't want it to creep up to 45, sometimes 50, depending on how demanding the game is. Because remember, the decoding that's happening and the encoding on this chipset is relying, of course, on how much demand there is in the game. So if you're playing a game like Half-Life Alyx, it's obviously going to take more processing power than 11 table tennis. So the latency may be a little higher while it's decoding that if the chip is heavily more working and needs more time to render that scene. So that's where you got to optimize these settings, and that's what I'm telling you here now, is if you're playing a single player game, if you're playing games that latency is not the biggest deal and you're okay with running at like 45 to 55, then 600 megabits per second will probably be good for every single game that you play. However, if you want that latency to always stay at 40 or below, because it's a very dependent game, the two that I have on my list that I want to stay under 40 every time I play them is Beat Saber, because obviously you're playing on expert, you want that latency to be really good, and then 11 table tennis as well, which is the one we just played. Even though it's running really well, like I said, it did sometimes creep up to like 44 sometimes, even though it dropped back down to 35. So if you wanted to hover under 40 and below, drop the megabits per second to 500, that would be a great way to, you know, not sacrifice too much quality, but still be really good for certain games. I've only had to do that with 2 games, Beat Saber and 11 table tennis, because latency for me is not something I notice very easily, except in those 2 games. So for things like Half-Life Alyx, which will launch right now, it's a single player game. I don't care if the latency, because this game's more powerful and more demanding, the latency is gonna be a little higher, but it doesn't bother me because I'm okay with that, running it at 600 megabits per second to get the better visual quality, and then dips, you know, from 45 to 50 to 55 in latency. That's okay, because you don't need the fastest, twitchiest things, and the latency is going to be perfectly fine. So it really is game dependent, but it's very easy to switch, which is a good thing. You can switch it while you're in game too. You don't have to like exit virtual desktop and do it all over again. But you can see here we're loading up Half-Life Alyx here. We're going through it. You can see the latency right now is really low, but it will climb a little higher once the game actually loads. I wish it stayed at 35 the whole entire time, but like I said, this game's demanding. The chipset's doing a lot of work here. You can see the decoding and the encoding. The decoding's up to like 19, 20 megabits per second. So we're getting around 50 megabits, sometimes hovering at 40. So like I said, demanding games like this, 45 to 55 to 600 megabits per second is what you're going to get. If you want it to get lower in latency, then drop the bitrate down to 500. I only do that for 11 Table Tennis and Beat Saber because I feel like that's all you need. For games like this with Half-Life Alyx, like, I don't need the latency to be spot on because I'm not swiping and hitting blocks in milliseconds kind of performance. I just need to be able to play this well, and I want the highest resolution. So this is awesome. I mean, the fact that I can get this game to look this good on wireless PCVR for the very first time, because like I said, none of this stuff worked on my previous previous router. One, because I had it down in the basement. That was a problem, like the biggest major factor, and I moved it up here into the office now. But the biggest reason is Wi-Fi 7. This Play for Dream actually supports Wi-Fi 7, one of the few headsets that actually do, which means that you're going to get the full benefits of it. And I'm getting on this headset really good performance where I can actually keep up with the bitrate at 600 megabits per second using Wi-Fi 7. Because on my previous headset, even when I went downstairs and played right next to the router with my Play for Dream, and I put anything over like 350, it couldn't keep up. The latency went crazy, and it was impossible to play. It was sitting like over 100 latency. So without Wi-Fi 7, this wouldn't be possible to get it at this high of a bitrate. You would just have to scroll it down to like AV1, like I talked about before, or you have to scroll this down to like 300 megabits per second or so to get this to not have crazy latency, because it just couldn't keep up on the networking side with that previous router. So I'm really happy with the ASUS router that I got. Yes, it was expensive. 500. It was on sale for 600, usually 800 this past weekend. So crazy, ridiculous price for a router, but it improved everything in my house. Not only did it improve this wireless PCVR experience tenfold to now be able to play things at the max bitrate and the best resolution and performance that you can get on a Play for Dream headset right now, but it also made the wireless in my whole entire house better. I don't need to use an extender anymore. I still have wireless coverage in my basement at pretty good speeds. Wi-Fi 7 reaches my whole entire first floor with no issues, and so does wireless 6 gigahertz. It reaches most of my basement as well. And for the spots that it doesn't, 2.5 and 5.0 reach all that really well. I even have 2.4 coverage all over my backyard as well for some of the cameras and stuff that I have out there. So router is great. Play for Dream is now running at the best possible way that it was, way better than it was before, now at all this max bit rate and the best virtual desktop settings. So can't really complain. This is freaking awesome to be able to play this like this, and hopefully this is coming across here, and I can't wait to dive into more games that are going to look this good and this, high resolution now at even better performance than I had when I first got this headset. So those are the settings that I would recommend you set virtual desktop to if you have a Wi-Fi 7 router, or if you don't, then you know what to do. You can see here, sometimes you get the latency to go even lower here, depending on the scene as things load in. But yeah, this is amazing stuff that you can now play this stuff on the Play for Dream with this combination Wi-Fi 7 with the Wi-Fi 7 router. So for me, well worth the $600. I'll be future-proof for a long time now, and headsets that have Wi-Fi 7, like this one, are going to perform amazing, especially if it's in your room. You got to remember, these things don't have the biggest range when it comes to Wi-Fi 7 and 6, so you're going to have it in a very similar room to where you're playing VR. Otherwise, you're going to run into some issues. If you're trying to play in the basement from up here, you still won't get the latency to be as good, but still way better than any other router I've had before. So this is awesome. If you guys have any questions about anything we talked about in today's video here, about the router, about the Play for Dream, you can obviously let me know down below. And if you guys want to support me and the channel, links will be down below to both the router and also the Play for Dream headset. Thank you guys for watching. Till next time.